Welcome to Sister Power. I'm your host, Sharon Thomas Yarbrough, and we're excited today. We have two fabulous women here from Southern California, and we're going to speak about the impact of systemic racism and mental health in the Black culture. Welcome, ladies. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Very quickly, I know that July is National Minority Mental Health Month. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you are.
All right. And so first, Dr. King, introduce yourself. Give us a quick snapshot of what you do, who you are, and then Latanya will hear from you.
Thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm Dr. Akin Marino. I'm a psychologist. I am a behavioral health commissioner, and I'm a mental health solutionist. Basically, I try to find solutions to people's lives using mental health concepts. And I'm also a pastor.
Oh, all right, Pastor.
And I am aloha, everyone. I am Latanya Washington. I am the founder of the International List Tour for leaders and entrepreneurs, also the customer culture. And as well as I am now an associate professor at MSJC, instructing in marketing, and excited to be here.
So happy to hear you. When I was listening to your show, Latanya, I was on Facebook, and your conversation struck me on the information that Dr. King was giving us about the impact of systemic racism and mental health in the Black culture. And I froze for a moment, and she was saying that we're in a state of alert. And I want to speak further about that, Dr. King, and explain racial trauma and its impacts collectively and individually.
Yeah, thank you so much. The word trauma means wound. So when we're talking about trauma, we're talking about a wound. And when we're talking about racial trauma, we're talking about the experiences of a collective body that has been traumatized based on either systems of oppression or personal interactions with racist systems and racist people. And as a Black community, we have been impacted. It's a historic trauma. So when we talk about slavery, the impact of slavery has not ended. It's still with us because there's something called epigenetics, and epigenetics is when you think of your DNA is basically written in stones. You can't change your DNA; it's there. Okay, the DNA you were born with is what you're going to die with. But there's something called the expression of your DNA, the way you express your DNA based on either biological influence, psychological influences, environmental influences, cultural influences. Some things will influence the way that you actually react in life. So let me give you an example. When they did a study on several studies on prisoners of war, people that have experienced just heinous crimes in the world, they found out circumstances in the world. They found out that the consequences of the trauma that they experienced was not limited to their lives. And so they might have, an inability to focus, there might be alcoholism, it might be, just being in a state of deprivation. And it didn't stop there. It continued in generations. And so the next generation also had the same symptoms, and the generation after that. And so this thing carries on through generations. So we are still experiencing the trauma from slavery, not only historic trauma, but the current trauma, the one that is being perpetrated right now with the culture that we have when we talk about institutional racism, institutional systemic racism. So not only are we dealing with historic trauma, we're also dealing with personal trauma. And so that means that we're constantly, like I said on the show, on a state of alert.
Wow, that's deep. What was your take on that when you first interview Dr. King about the impact of systemic racism, Latanya?
You know what? She brought some knowledge to us that, what we didn't even think about. And so I was like in shock. I was in shock because you recognize the fact that even as we go through life, we've always been told, we have to stay two steps ahead, things that we have to do. And then we don't realize that we're consistently in a state of alert. We're always thinking about what do I need to do to stay ahead. And so when you begin to think about what she said, it made me say, okay, now I know, as we talked about, now I'm aware. Now, what is it that I need to do in order to push through and get to the next level?
I like
Absolutely.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. You've heard from the time that you could read and write, you must stay two steps ahead. You have to show up early. You have to stay late. You have
Yeah.
to read more. Your research is deeper and heavier, but it does make you a better woman and a better man.
Yeah.
May I explain that state of alert? Let me just tell you where that comes from. So when we're talking about the state of alert, uh, when we talk about trauma, not everyone who experiences a traumatic event is traumatized. We have to say that. Not everyone, but there are traumatic events in the world. So when you have a train wreck, institutional racism, all of these things might be traumatic events, but no, we're not all traumatized. So trauma happens when you don't have the resources to cope with the incoming experiences or incoming stimuli that is coming at you. So that's when trauma happens. And then some things are happening in the brain. We're having, the amygdala saying, I need help, and then we have cortisol that's been released, in the body. And that's what it's supposed to be adaptive. So what's supposed to happen is when your brain sees that you need help, adrenaline is pumping, we get the cortisol pumping if we still need help, but it's supposed to break. It's supposed to pause. Okay. The parasympathetic nerve is supposed to say, okay, we are done. We are done with this. But when you are constantly being impacted, you're constantly being impacted by all kinds of issues. And somebody described this system as a looped system that there's no loophole. So you can't get out. If one doesn't get you, another will get you. So you're in a constant state. So cortisol is pumping through your body, and that's telling your body that we need help, where it says danger. So when you keep saying there's danger, when you keep saying that I need help, the body never rests. There is no rest. And so everything is out of order. Respiratory systems, metabolic systems, all kinds of systems in the body are on alert because they feel like, the body is in danger. And so it impacts our relationships. It impacts the way we see the world. It impacts what you do at work. It impacts everything. And so being on that state of alert would never fully enjoy the life that we're supposed to enjoy, a full life that is devoid of trauma. So we just need to say to people that, look, somehow we have to get to a point where we're not all being traumatized.
Wow, I'm so glad that you clarified that. That was put beautifully. How does systemic racism affect me as a Black woman, Latanya?
Well, for me, it affected me in a way that I wasn't expecting, first and foremost. We go to school and we do everything. And, me and my personality, I am an extrovert. And so, being an extrovert, I pretty much get along with everyone until you kind of face those persons that you come in contact with and they say certain things. For instance, okay, oh, you talk too loud. I mean, I remember I had a professor that told me we had to do a presentation and he said to me, oh, you talk too loud. And I found myself at one point toning myself down, but recognizing the fact later, I'm called to be that way. This is how I am, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I began to realize, to me, that was a form of racism because, we are a little bit more jubilant and we speak our tones are a little bit different. And so when I began to realize that, and I said, oh my goodness, here I am, and I had to deal with this. And so even with the darkness of my skin and my hair being natural, and so, you get those looks, and you begin to recognize that people are really, really, they don't necessarily see you for who you are on the inside. They automatically look at your outer appearance. And so it played a part for me. It played a little bit of a kind of a negative connotation, but then I'm like, you know what? I am who I am. Black is beautiful.
Yeah.
My hair is natural and it's beautiful.
Yes, it
And I'm
is.
just going to be who I am going to be because I'm different. Yeah.
I love that. I'm so glad you
Absolutely.
brought that to our attention. I live here in Hawaii. You ladies is in
Yeah.
Southern California. I hear it all the time that I speak too loud and tone it down. I can't tone me down. I am who I am.
That's right.
So I love
That's
that. I love that aspect. So,
Uh,
what aspects of our history are we looking at this present time? What aspect of our history are we looking at, Dr. King?
yeah, I'm just smiling because you said the tone it down, and it actually, at some point, it could also be a trauma response the way we talk.
Oh,
Uh,
not being heard. Mm.
Yeah, it's an adapt. We see, look, when we are in a state of when there's collective trauma, we
Mm.
we learn to adapt. We learn to
Yeah.
adapt. And when you've not been heard, okay, when you've had to, pave the way for everything and fight, sometimes you just need to be emphatic. You know, you need to let them hear you. And remember what I talked about um, the DNA expression.
Yeah.
So this is not about us. It's about grandparents and great grandparents who have had to, you know, maybe have a little bit more volume in order to assert themselves. Okay. And then that's inherited by the next generation that is inherited until we all just acquire it as our own. Not that it's inherent, it's bad. I'm just explaining that could literally also be a response, a trauma response.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of things that we do. What part of our history are we looking at right now? It's the same history that's coming to bite us like everything that's happening right now are things that have happened in the past. We're looking at a history of, you know, slavery. We're looking at a history of just inhumane, behaviors. We're looking at a system that says that, a closed system that says that you don't belong, and a system that says that this is not that you don't belong here. And so all of the things that you guys are talking about are microaggressions. When somebody says, "Oh, you look nice for a black lady," or, "Oh, you're not as dark as the rest of them," or, "You speak well for a black woman," or, "Oh, you should go to," or, "You're tall, you should be playing basketball." These are things that are part of the microaggressions that we hear every day. And those little things also add to the trauma. So in this point in history, like you've asked, for me, I say we need to figure out what we need to do, as not just as a collective system, but as individual groups, but also to return to the place of healing and to return to the place of blessing, a place where we belong, the place where we had our own culture and our own sense of self, and nobody told you that you were not enough, a place of enough. Because what happens is this culture has actually built in a sense of scarcity, as if there's not enough for everyone. Because see, it's because of that sense of scarcity that people are so prejudiced, or there's racist systems, because you feel like if I give you what you deserve, then I won't have enough for myself. But that's a lie. That is evil. That's a lie, because there is enough for everybody. There is enough resources in the world for everyone, and there is enough love for everybody. So if we just get to the point of enough, a point of that enough, a point where we say we belong, we have enough, and we don't need to believe the lie of the oppression that says that we're not enough or there's not enough for us. There is access for us. I think if we go back to that place, then we begin to build our families. I was saying this on Latoya's show the other day. You know, we'll begin to rebuild our families. We'll begin to rebuild our own systems so that we can demonstrate that we're a people and not just property and not just, you know, 3/4 of human beings. But no matter what, no matter what anybody says, if it's they say you're a full human being. If you don't treat me as such, that means you don't see me as a full human being. So we have to stop proving to people who we are. I just want us to be. I just want us to be who we're supposed to be. The ocean doesn't struggle to be an ocean. You know, a plant doesn't struggle to be a plant. They just plant themselves where they belong and they bloom. So I want us to find a place of belonging and we start to bloom as a people.
I love that. I really love that. I know also, Dr. King, you're an author as well, but we'll chat about that a little later. But Latanya, I was reading something today. The National Geographic interviewed co-founder Alicia Garza of Black Lives Matters. And they asked her this question, and I want to ask you this question. In this insane moment, in the midst of protests, pandemic, and the faltering economy, what, if anything, is giving you hope?
You know what? What's giving me hope is the fact that I'm beginning to see us as a people come together. What really caught my attention is that, and then seeing people around the world coming together too. Another thing that gives me hope is I'm now seeing our allies, as they're calling it, our allies are standing up as well and asking, what is it that we can do? You know, for me, I don't want to hear I'm sorry anymore. There's no need for I'm sorry. My thing is, you know, saying, what can I do? And then holding them accountable for, if you ask me what you can do, allow me to step in and say, this is what I can do, and let me do what I do. And so that's the part that's giving me hope now. And so I'm going to hold on to it. And I told friends of mine, I said, when you see the open door and you see the open window, step into it. Step into the window, step into the door, because we don't know how long it will last. But this is our moment and this is our time and it's our opportunity. And so when it's time to move, it's time for us to move. And as they say, the young people say, you don't have to get ready when you're already ready. And that's what gives me hope.
All right, stay woke, be bold and courageous. So, so Dr. King, how does one learn to believe in themselves?
I believe that. How do you learn to believe in yourself? You need to know who you are. You need to hear the right things being said to you. Faith comes by hearing. That's how you develop faith. Faith is not necessarily a religious concept. It is a concept of hope. And how do you believe? How do you believe in yourself when no one has ever told you who you are? Yeah. So you have to find who you are. You have to find a source of connection. You have to see a reflection of who you are. So if all around you is chaos, and I'm just gonna share this with everyone. If all around you is chaos, if all around you is dysfunction, it's going to be very difficult to know who you are. Because all the reflections that you get is chaotic, it's dysfunctional. You need to find something else to look at. The amygdala, it's always it wants to get all the negative passion, all the negative, intense emotions of your life. So when it sees the negativity, the amygdala is going to want to keep re-experiencing that. So when I was do groups with divorced women a while ago. And one woman I think she was married like 3 or 4 times. And she said, I keep marrying the same person. They're just in different names, different everything. I said, well, because what has happened is your amygdala has seen, as you've shown the amygdala what love looks like. When your first experience was just horrible, the amygdala thought, that's it, that's what it looks like. And so it's going to want to keep re-experiencing that. So you're getting attracted to the same people in different spaces. So it is important. The good news is the amygdala doesn't know the difference between a lived experience or an imagined experience. And so what we need to do is then find a way to introduce new ways of seeing in our lives. You need to find that what you want and begin to see that. It needs to be in your forefront. If it's watching movies that will lift you up, if it's talking to people, if it's reading a book, whatever you need to do. Sometimes it even means relocating if you have to. But whatever you need to do, hope is within you, but it's also cultivated around you. So we have to surround ourselves with hopeful people. We have to surround ourselves with people who can say, this is who we are, this is who we want to be, and then faith rises, and then we can move. You can't tell me to move if I don't know where to go. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And Latanya, you're an associate professor. And what type of special attention must be given to our younger generation?
Now that's a good question, because now we're in the process of figuring it out. Because now they're realizing that they did not put enough attention on our especially our Black students. And so for us, we're going through the distance education now because we're not going back into the classroom. And I begin to realize, and I'm big on culture. And first and foremost, I tell them that you have to listen to them because each culture has its own identity. You have your millennials, you have Generation X, you have Generation XY. They all come from a different culture. And it's up to us as adults to understand where they are. And a lot of times it just calls for us to listen and to really, truly, truly care about what they're dealing with, because they're dealing with a lot. As it says, they're smarter, but they're not necessarily wiser. And so that's what we're dealing with now. And so for us, it's a matter of understanding the culture that you're dealing with, and then listening, and then allowing them to play a part in whatever we're bringing to the table, especially as professors in the college. Let them understand that they have a piece of the pie as well. And so that's what we're dealing with now. But it boils down to understanding who they are, what culture they're a part of, and just allowing them to understand that we care and we want the best for you.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And Dr. King, we are in a state of emergency. What needs to happen in America to end systemic racism?
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that question.
It's loaded.
It is, and I want you to jump in on that too, Latanya.
Well, just going, yeah, look, the reason we can end this, and the way we can end this is in threefold. It has to be personally, individually, you have to decide, I'm going to be healed. I no longer want to be traumatized. Collectively, as Black people, we have to also heal as Black people. But within the system that oppresses, the system itself that oppresses, we need to then begin to say, create room for Black folks. You need to say, all of these churches who don't have maybe white congregations and don't have, any minority in executive boards, they need to be there. We know when we have organizations where a high percentage are minority Black people there, but there's nobody in the boardroom. And it's not because they're not qualified. All of this stuff about they're not qualified. They are qualified Black people. They're just not there. And so we need to make room for them. When we did away with what is that? When they hired there was a quota. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we know about the quota. I'm sure.
Yeah, when they had that, People said, oh no, we shouldn't do that as reverse racism. And no, we're trying to bridge a gap. We're trying to bridge a gap of inequities. And it is important that right now we begin to bridge gaps of inequities in every structure, in the legal structure, in the political structures, everywhere. We need to begin to do that. And I think we cannot do it alone as Black people. We need everybody here. We need everybody. We need to join hands and say, this is what needs to be done. We are ready. We want to be at the table of the decision-making boards. We need to be there.
Absolutely. That is a loaded question. But let me just take it one step further since we only have a couple of minutes left, ladies. One message, where do you see the future? LaTanya, where do you see the future with Blacks? And you had a conversation on your show about, because Dr. King, you're from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And so we all, as Black people and brown people, need to get together. So where do you see the future?
Okay, where do I literally see the future? Honestly, I think there's a window and a time and a season for everything. Right now, I think it's our time. That means, especially us as Black people, it is our time to step up, because I believe that the window is there. We're still, even though we have allies and people are saying we're with you and how can I help you, you still got a lot more in high positions that could care less. And so I think for me, it's a season. It's seasonal. I do believe the Bible. I do believe the Bible is fulfilling itself. And so, like I said, to me, it's seasonal, but I believe right now it's just our time and our opportunity. And we have to just face what we need to face and get through and get everything that we need.
Okay, I love that. And you ladies, as I knew it would happen, we need a part 2. And I am just so excited about that. I wanted to thank you, Dr. King, so much for your time. And I want to thank you, LaTanya Washington, for your time. And let's do it again. We're going to come back on Thursday, July 23rd, and we will do a part 2 on the impact of systemic racism and mental health in the Black culture. And I want to advise everyone, please wear your mask. Wear your mask every day. Please wear your mask. Absolutely. And everyone, thank you for spending your time with Sisters Empowering Hawaii, Oceans of Aloha, Peace, and Love. Aloha.
Thank you.
Oh.